Sue from Free Motion Quilt along with Ren and Sue. We're working on Colourque techniques today, and there's a lot of things you can use that around the house. Things like the kids' crayons. You don't need to buy expensive fabric ones. You can use a normal one. So to do a crayon, I always first, because you want to heat set it to set the colour into the fabric. And I don't like the idea of having the wax laying in the batting. Most of the information will be coming up on the screen as subtitles, so I won't be talking too much today. These are just Crayola crayons that you might have lying around. Any work. It is really important to heat set the colour. I always do it even with a fabric medium or with Inktense because I just feel that you get a better result if it's always been heat set. Just make sure that the iron is a dry iron and you want your steam turned off. Okay, so we're now ready to make our quilt sandwich as normal. Choose your basting methods, whether it's pin, sewing, or using a fabric spray, and sew along your marked lines. This helps to prevent any bleeding. Now, if you're using Inktense especially, we are going to be using water to spread the colour. I always do the aloe vera first and let it dry overnight. Just helps to stop any bleeding. Okay, this is my mix. I just mix about 3/4 aloe vera gel with a good dose of the fabric medium or textile medium, or whatever you want to call it. It makes it very thick and creamy. You can use it to spread the colour around. You can use it to add into your colour wash, whether you're doing a watercolour wash or an ink wash, and it gives you a lot more control. And you can actually do very detailed art doing this way that you would normally not be able to do on fabric without a lot of bleeding. It doesn't really matter what fabric medium you use. I usually just buy whatever is locally available. And as you can see, I've got two different types of aloe vera in the background. So it's just, whatever you can get at the time. You will see at the end that this is really thick and creamy, almost like a whipped egg white. Okay, so I'm using watercolour pencils. I've just dampened the area slightly and colouring in like you would with a normal pencil. Adding some highlights. Now using the wet brush, I'm just using that with water and some fabric medium added into it. You don't really want your brush too wet because you don't want the colours to bleed. Watercolour pencils tend to go on much better if the fabric is already damp. And then you can just use your damp brush to spread the colour around and make sure you're up to your edges. You can change colours, add in some highlights, and then just blend them if you need to with a damp brush. And you should have something like that by the time you've finished. Okay, this is just making a ink wash. Um, I've got the blocks, I don't have the pencils in the Inktense, and I just put some water into one of the small areas and stir it with the block until I get the colour depth that I want. Because I've got a fairly large area that I'm going to be doing this particular colour with, and some are quite fine lines, I'm adding my mix that I did before with the aloe vera and fabric medium. You can see how thick and creamy it is, and once you've stirred it all up, your ink wash has become quite thick and therefore very easy to control on your fabric. You can see there that it is really thick and creamy. Now some of the little fine areas are under an eighth of an inch wide, and I've been able to just use a fine brush and get it exactly where I want it to go. So having that thickness really can make a big difference in these fine areas, and you won't get the bleeding. Now to use the Inktense blocks on their own, it's going on dry over the area that I want to do. I didn't get a good picture of it in the other videos, so I've just done it on a scrap. Now you want your brush to be damp rather than wet, and just blend the colour to the edges. My brush is a little bit too wet there, and you'll see a bleed start to happen. It's always a good idea to have a paper towel in your hand. You can just blot any excess water off your brush and make sure it's not wet. So just moving the colour around, making sure the area is covered. Also with the Inktense blocks, you can do the whole area like this if you wanted to, or you can just touch up the areas. I'm just getting a damp brush, wiping it against the block itself, and then touching up areas to make sure the colours are even. Now just to add some highlights, again I'm just using dry Inktense blocks. So I'm going to add some highlights and some low lights. Just drawing roughly in the area that I want it. And just using the brush then to smooth it out and make it more even and get the effect that I want. I'm only using plain water. The Inktense pencils and blocks are permanent, do not need a fabric medium. And that's the finished colour that I've just done. You can see the way the colour's been blended, adding more shadow and light. Now making a watercolour wash, I've just got water, I'm adding some fabric medium, and I'm adding some tubes of watercolour into it. And I'll show you how I made the background wash. I'm going to use 2 colours and just stir well. Probably better to stir it before you add the fabric medium. You'll be able to see better how well your colours mixed. As you can see on the left hand upper corner, I have got a blob of dark. It does give a more interesting background effect, but if you don't want it, just and that happens, just dilute it and work it in more. And there you go. You've got a coloured motif or quilt that you can do all sorts of different things with. Thanks for watching.